StateCollege.com. I'm Nate Mink here with Ben Jones. It's a Wednesday practice for Iowa Week. Ben, Penn State's 8 p.m. kick in Iowa City, Kinnick Stadium. Big Ten Network televises. Prime time for Penn State. A couple of unbeaten teams in the Big Ten. Injury-wise, I mean, nothing really significant. Bill Belton looked like some kind of windbreaker type pants, so we don't really have a good view of how heavily his ankles wrapped. Bill O'Brien would not say definitively if he was 100% or not, but I mean, he's expected to play. I would think he's expected to play a typically normal role in this offense on Saturday. Outside of that, the freshman linebacker Naeem Wortman still is held out this week. But Penn State's healthy. Iowa, Mark Weissman is the big name. He's the running back who has over 600 yards and 8 TDs for the Hawkeyes this year. He's, if we can qualify it as extremely doubtful, I think that's the best way to maybe put it. The MRI turned out positive for him, but I'm sure Kirk Ferentz is probably not going to risk too much with him if he can't go. I wouldn't anticipate him going. Yeah. Iowa, a couple of unbeatens, like I said earlier. Environment-wise, we see Penn State, and I don't know if you can hear this on the video, but there is some music blasting out here at practice today. They did that for their goal line work and also on their field goal unit. I'm guessing to simulate Kinnick Stadium. Yeah. Night game, road environment, Kinnick Stadium. Can Penn State handle it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big test for this team. They haven't been on the road in an environment like this in a long time. So you're gonna find out a lot about this team, what they can do on the road, what they can do in front of an Iowa fan base that really wants to win this game. So it'll be interesting to see. The first quarter or so ought to tell a lot about how that game goes.
Penn State historically this year starts extremely fast. I think they blanked opponents in first quarter scoring this year, and part of the reason is because Bill O'Brien is so good at scripting the first quarter. They have an idea of what they want to do right from the get-go, and they flat out just execute that almost to a T so far. Iowa, as we've seen, is really dependent on starting fast because their offense, is kind of sluggish at times this year. I mean, these offenses, Penn State's a complex, diverse scheme that can really cause problems once they get into their NASCAR and once they're clicking on all cylinders. But Iowa is more of a grinded-out team that likes to play in front and may need to play in front to get this job done. Do we have a sense on how Penn State's going to approach this? Is it going to try to go for the jugular early, or do they try to see if they can match wits with Iowa for 4 quarters? I mean, are we headed towards a 4-quarter game, or can Penn State take control of this thing early and put a quiet to it?
I think tempo is going to be key in this game, but I think Penn State and Bill O'Brien are going to try and end it as soon as they can. Not necessarily put the game out of reach for Iowa, but try and get a few scores ahead of Iowa to try to make some space to make Iowa's offense come back, because Iowa doesn't do that well from behind, and I don't think that's the game that Kirk Ferentz is looking to get into. So if Penn State can have a strong first quarter like they have all season, then I think the game plan will be going Penn State's way.
Historically, this has been a series in recent years, excluding last year. Obviously, Penn State won 13-3 last year, but in recent years, Iowa has kind of had Penn State's number. Kirk Ferentz, has almost, and I'm going to steal a line from Corey Geiger, the Altoona Mirror here. He kind of out Joe Paterno's Joe Paterno in the sense that Kirk really can play that grinded out field position, hitting yardage, premium on special teams in the kicking game type of game, and it's when push comes to shove, Iowa's really been able to shove Penn State around in some of these games, particularly at the line of scrimmage. Do we have a sense with the new coaching staff, with the new strength and conditioning staff, the new offense, the more aggressive style of defense, can we totally wipe, for history's sake, the previous decade out the window?
Yeah, I think that Mac McWhorter and Craig Fitzgerald have both done an excellent job in their respective fields, and I think that Penn State will probably have the advantage in the trenches for the first time in a long time against Iowa, and Iowa doesn't have the Adrian Claiborne that they've had for a long time, that big name guy in the front seven that's really going to disrupt your pass and your run. So I think Penn State's going to have the advantage for the first time in a long time.
If Iowa does have an advantage, do we agree it's in special teams and in the kicking game?
That's safe to say. Yeah.
Prediction time. I mean, obviously, I believe Penn State has not won there since 1999. I mean, that's a really long time ago.
Yeah.
Does Penn State keep the momentum rolling into obviously the big showdown on October 27th against Ohio State, or does Penn State, get a hiccup? Do they get a hiccup here?
I think they're going to have to play well, but I think they win this game. I think Penn State's a more complete team right now. Their offense is more consistent. Their defense is as good as Iowa's, if not better. And I think that's what this game's going to come down to. It'll be interesting to see how they do in the conditions that they'll be in, but I don't see any reason why Penn State couldn't and shouldn't win this game.
Yeah, nothing to take away from Virginia. I think this is a little bit more of a different atmosphere than Charlottesville was. It's going to be a night game in Kinnick Stadium. It's just going to be an electric atmosphere. Penn State, we really don't know how they're going to handle a situation like that. But what we do know, and from what I've gathered from watching this team all year, is they don't. They're fearless. They're not fearless.
Yeah.
They're fearless. Quite honestly, they're fearless. Nothing seems to bother them. And I don't think, for us, all the adversity they've overcome, I don't think, road environment really factors into this team's psyche as much as maybe some other teams would in the past. I think Penn State can do a little bit more than Iowa on offense. They can grind it out with Zach Zwinak if need be. They're coming off a bye week, which is very important because of they have some fresh legs. And Matt McGloin, to this point in the year, is probably the best quarterback in the Big Ten. You can make a case for Braxton Miller, but pocket passing-wise,
traditional sense.
Yeah, pro-style quarterbacking-wise, McGloin is head and shoulders above everyone else in this league right now, and I think that gives. You got to be able to throw the ball on the road, and I think Penn State can do that. So, I think right now Penn State will win. I think it's going to be a very close game, like you said. They may get hung up on a couple special teams points in this game, but I think Penn State right now is just across the board more strong in more areas than Iowa is, and over a 4-quarter and 60-minute game, I think that shines through in the end.
And you might see something like we saw with the Northwestern game, where that game stays close, and Penn State's strength and conditioning and their physical ability to pound the ball comes back in the 4th quarter, and they can pull away.
Yeah. Well, I will see you from Iowa City on Saturday. We are wrapping up here Wednesday's practice session at the Latch football fields. For Ben Jones, I'm Nate Mink for StateCollege.com. See ya.